Welcome to Coast View, the show that every single day celebrates the amazing men and women who are making coastal Mississippi, and Mississippi for that matter, such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, we have a great show today. We're going to have Cal Johnson, who's a charter boat captain here in coastal Mississippi, really active in conservation efforts here. And I look forward to having that conversation. In the second half of the show, we're going to be visiting with Tanner Sweatman, who works with the People's Bank, and he's been on the show before. I look forward to visiting with Tanner to get his view on the economic situation and talk a little bit about the outdoors with him because he loves bringing his kids to the outdoors. Hey, but before we go to Kyle, let me share with you something that my friend Stacy Waldrop posted, and this is from Mindful Christianity, and I just think it's perfect, and it's kind of a theme of the last few days, I might add. Here's what it says: helping one person might not change the whole world, but it could change the world for one person. I think a lot of times that we go through our lives and we push a little hard, and maybe we're trying to be too much to too many people. When what we really need to do is just focus on the people who are around us and seeing if they have any needs in their life, et cetera. But just kind of wise food for thought. So now let's shift gears and move over to my friend Captain Kyle Johnson. He's a charter boat captain here on the coast, and he's someone actually I followed on social media for quite some time. My son Jordan and him met along the way. I think actually y'all even fished together with a mutual friend at some point. But anyway, it's great to see you on my show, Kyle. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah. Me and Jordan met the best way possible. That's on an offshore fishing trip. So you really get to know somebody when you're on the water with them for 14 hours. And we've kept in touch ever since. And I took your other son fishing as well for a bachelor party. And you really made it tough because you took him out the day before and absolutely killed it. So the pressure was on.
Oh, that's right, Kyle. That's right. I forgot that you set that up. Yeah, we had we weren't planning to go fishing that day. We got up that morning. I think y'all went on a Saturday. They arrived on a Thursday. It might have been Friday morning if I might not have the days right, but we loaded up, put all of them in my boat, and we went offshore. And I said, why don't we go see if we can find the schools of redfish? And of course, the rest is history now. It was
You did. You found
epic. It was an epic day. But we had a great time. Hey, it was interesting, Kyle, for that particular trip. It was different because it wasn't just sight casting. It was what happened is that there were so many schools of them. They went down, and I could mark them. And what I would tell the guys to do is, as soon as I started to mark them on the depth finder, I just said, just don't cast, just drop straight down and just start jigging. Yep. And I mean, literally, it was automatic. It was one of those. It's not, it's not often you catch it just literally perfect. Mm-hmm. And that was one of those days.
I actually prefer those over the schools busting on top of the water because, technology is just crazy now. And I have side scan, and you find those slicks and you go through them or you go around them and you pick them up on side scan. Same thing, man. I'll use, cobia jigs, big 1-2 ounce jigs. There's no casting. You don't have to troll. You just drop it straight down. And when you get in front of them, they're gonna hit it. And it's fun, man. I love those. That's coming very soon. I've actually seen a few schools on the north tip of Chandelier on my way out to Chandelier here lately. I've already seen some schools busting. So super early, but I'm hoping that's a good sign.
Yeah, usually this time of year we're not thinking about redfish. We're thinking, can we get out in the vicinity of the horseshoe rig area and hit the salt dun there and catch some yellowfin tuna. Do you ever get a chance to do that?
Absolutely. That's actually me and Jordan. The first time we met, that's what we were doing with our buddy John McMahon, and we got a great crew together. And Jordan's part of that, and that's what really makes it fun with an offshore trip. Is having a good crew. Everybody knows what they're gonna do. Everybody kind of has their place, and we went out there. Unfortunately, that trip was a little tough. There's an incident that happened with Jordan, and I guess I'm not going to put him on blast, but he's gonna know what I'm talking about. But we had a really good time, and I'll tell you what, that whole 3 days at the boat show, that's the only thing I was thinking about was, man, I should be running out to the lumps right now. And had some buddies out there do really good too during that.
We had some slick water. They found some yellowfin?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, good. Man, I tell you, man. I mean, it's this time of year, you just got to catch it perfect. I caught it perfect 3 years ago Didn't have a good window last year. I just in terms of my schedule, the windows, as you know, you got to get that
Mm,
exact tight window. You don't, as most people who don't fish this time of year, you don't want to be offshore just after a front goes through or when a front's about to come through because it's brutal. But then it settles down and you get a little window, and if it all works out, you can go. This one particular trip that I took, we had there were three of us on the boat, and we had to go in really thick fog until we got to like Horn Island, and then it was smooth sailing the rest of the day. And by 11:30, we had a 155, a 135, and a 145 in the boat, and a 90-pound amberjack, and literally had no other place to put fish, and we just turned around and came home. Yeah,
that's a
you've
good
seen those
problem to
before.
have. Oh yeah. One of the best trips they had on John's boat, I think. Of course, I couldn't go, but very similar day, very foggy, and I remember getting a video from John that morning, super super foggy. But this was before they broke the state record. I think somebody broke it. Was that last year or the year before last?
Yeah.
It was like 260 pound. Well, before that, I think the record was like 204 pound yellowfin. Well, I get a phone call on the way in. I was still in the Army at the time, working here in Gulfport, and I get a phone call from my buddy Troy Helwig. He said, "Hey, man, call the DMR. I think we got a state record yellowfin." Of course, it's the trip I couldn't go on, so I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And they're like, "No, for real, we're passing Horn Island. We got one over 200 pounds." And so I actually called the DMR and had everything set up. And John met them at their facility in the Back Bay. I think it was just like 2 pounds short, man. It was
Oh
almost a state
wow.
record yellowfin. And of course, it's the one trip I couldn't go on.
Right, right.
but but
So you have coastal water outfitters. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But where did your love of the outdoors come from?
just like every other coastal kid, growing up, your parents, I think a lot of people that grow up here, your dad and grandpa are really involved with it. And that's kind of where it started. And then, when I was younger, my dad gave me a little 14-foot aluminum skiff, and not really gave it to me, but it was kind of mine. He didn't really use it, but fished the Back Bays a lot, and that's what me and your son Jordan talk about a lot, because I fished the Back Bay a lot since I was a kid, and it's changed so much. But just started that way, with inshore, and then just got lucky. My dad met a guy that moved down here from the East Coast, and he was looking to learn inshore fishing, and he had no clue. But a super super proficient bluefin fisherman over anything offshore really. And he ended up buying a boat that he kept in Cypress Cove, and him and my dad. And my dad taught him the inshore game, trout and reds and all of that. And he kind of taught us everything about offshore, even though he really didn't know Venice well. I mean, he just came down there and picked it up real quick, and he taught us a lot of tricks and everything like that. And then, got of age, get my own bay boat and everything, started just hammering the islands. And I just kind of feel like I've been slowly working out further south. I honestly haven't been fishing chandelier that long. I've only been fishing chandelier for about 3 years now. First 2 years was really just kind of going on trips here and there with buddies. And then once I got that 28-foot Blue Wave Machaira, now I'm going out there as much as possible and kind of breaking into that market with my guide service as chandelier day trips, kind of leaving in the morning, getting back at sunset, and just kind of catering to a different group of guys that really want to kind of have their hand held out there. To be honest with you, I explain everything, why we're where we are, what the fish are doing, what they've been biting. And honestly, man, it's been working really well, and my clients have been doing really good, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, how do you maintain your enthusiasm for what you do? Because it can be a grind, can it?
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people understand. I left a very, very secure, very well paying job to do this. And it was an absolute lifestyle change. But it was something that I needed for me personally, mentally, to be honest with you. I just kind of felt like I was stuck in the rat race, and I was just at a point to take a leap. I'm 35 now, and this was a couple years ago that I was looking at this. I said, I'm at a place financially that I can make a mistake and still recover. So, let's at least, take that leap. But honestly, man, it's just, I know this word gets used a lot, especially in the fishing industry, but I just truly am insanely passionate about it, dude. This is what I do. If I wasn't here talking to you right now, I don't have a trip. So guess what I'd be doing? I'd be fishing right now if I wasn't talking to you. I still might go after this, to be honest with you. But
you do sound like Jordan, and I mean, all my kids have it in their blood, but Jordan, we actually call him the fish whisperer. He has a knack about him, and the fact that we live on the bay, he can come and grab a boat and go anytime he wants to, and it's really the way that he gets his sanity. Hey, when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Captain Cal Johnson, who's a charter boat captain here in coastal Mississippi, has a company called Coastal Waters Outfitters. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have my friend Captain Cal Johnson. He's a charter boat captain here in coastal Mississippi, has a company called Coastal Waters Outfitters, and just somebody I admire, has been following for a long time. He's good friends with my son, Jordan. But one of the things I said on my show Monday, my outdoor show, SuperTalk Outdoors, was that Mississippi is, obviously I say this all the time, is the capital of the outdoors in the United States. When you add it all up, whether it's deer hunting or turkey hunting or canoeing or whatever it is, what we have access to offshore and backwaters is unlike any other state in the nation when you put them all together into one little bundle. But what I said about the backwater fishing in coastal Mississippi is that it's really dependent upon the salinity levels. And it was getting perfect. And then we had that deluge of rain that came, and it just kind of messed up the salinities, and the bites are few and far between. It will get right again. But last summer, it was epic, the amount of rain that we had and the way that it impacted the backwaters. And there may be some residual impact of that. Do you think?
I think so. I think it's a lot of that. And then I'm a big proponent when it comes to targeting fish and why fish stay somewhere. Fish aren't like us. They can't just go to a fast food station and restaurant and grab something to eat. They're gonna be where the food is, and I think that's kind of a two-parter. It's a little bit of the salinity messing it up, and then maybe because of that, maybe that's why there's not as much bait back in there. But I did not see a big influx in shrimp this fall because I run out of Point Cadet Marina, which is right at the mouth of the Biloxi Bay. And so every trip I leave out of right there. And sometimes I get super lucky during the fall, and I don't even have, I'm on the big motor for like 1 second, then we're in the trolling motor, just kind of chasing the schools of trout in there. And that honestly only happened like twice this fall, whereas I was kind of looking forward to it as from years past. But I just don't think there's a lot of bait back there. And then the talking with the research lab a lot. I do a lot of work with them. Jim Franks, Pat Graham, Angelos, really great guys. And I'm really fortunate to call them friends and be able to call them and talk on the phone with them hours at a time. But it's really the salinity changing so much is what ruins things. If it would just stay low or just stay high, things will level out and everything would be okay. But it's really the so high up. And so, I mean, the salinity was nothing a week ago. It's 17 right now. That's a huge change. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. Hopefully this summer will be more normal.
I hope so. I'm praying for low winds and low rain because last summer was insane on both.
Yeah, it was. It really was. I mean, look, we had, I mean, I hate to admit this, but we had maybe, I'm talking about really offshore. I'm talking about deep water. We had only 2 big time offshore trips. And we had the redfish trips that I mentioned and stuff like that. We had great Horn Island trips for specs and stuff like that. But the offshore, I mean, usually at least every other weekend and sometimes every single weekend we're headed offshore. And that didn't happen last year.
No. I like snapper trips. I like, I got my regular clients that I like to take for them, especially. And I only book a certain amount just because I like doing other. I like chasing triple tail and things like that more, to be honest. But I booked 25 snapper trips last year, just kind of capped it off at that. And even with my bigger boat, having a 28-foot center console, I was only able to run 9 due to weather. That's how windy it was. I mean, there was 2 trips where we actually turned around, and I was like, yeah, this is not worth it, guys. we came around the south end of Horn because, sometimes you come around the south end and it's not as bad as you would think, but that day it was the complete opposite. It was way worse than I thought it was.
The way we talk about it when we go, and I'm sure you do the same thing, we're loaded to bear. We're ready for anything that we might face, and we say we're going to take what it gives us. We never know if there might be a little pocket of blue water that somehow works its way in, and we get lucky. Like one day we came up on a little pocket on our way somewhere else, and hooked a gigantic yellowfin. I caught a wahoo. We caught several dolphin. It was just so much fun, man. We could have literally sat there the rest of the day. It was just this beautiful pocket of cobalt blue water that was in 200 feet of water, and it was just epic. But that's the beauty of what we have access to. We have the ability to come across, a weed line. If Jordan says, Dad, why when we're catching fish at a weed line do we always leave? Well, because we were headed somewhere, He said, someday we just need to stay at the weed line and just fish it.
Those offshore trips, you get that plan in your head and you're just content with it. We've done it a bunch of times as well and sat back and been like, we could have stayed on that weed line. Some cobia could have swam up, some wahoo, you never know. But
and you can come across them in shallower water. I'm saying, 150 feet of water, 200 feet of water. And it's amazing what you have access to in a situation like that. Hey, listen, Kyle, I'm going to have you back and we're going to talk a lot more about fishing stories and whatever. But I want to focus for just a second about your conservation efforts. Why is that? Obviously it's your living, but it's more than that. So tell me more about why you're so focused on conservation.
I look at things just more than fishing, things in life as well. I look long term. I plan things out. I'm pretty strategic, and I look at things for the long term. And when you start getting better at fishing, and you start, having those trips where you're bringing home a lot of fish all the time, you really start to put things into perspective. Like, do I really need this much fish? And I got to that point a while back, and it's not like, I'm not going to sit here and say I've been like this my whole life. I was the best meat hauler next to anybody else. I wasn't satisfied unless I came home with a limit. It was all about limits and things like that. But the more I got involved with the fishing industry, and I've been super lucky, don't get me wrong, the connections I've made, luck has a lot to do with it, just like fishing. I've been super lucky. And I'm able to talk to very influential people in the industry. And when people at the top of the game are really looking at the conservation side of things and they're pushing that, it starts to get you to wonder. But something I would like you to think about and other people to think about, and this mainly is to inshore fishing, but find me somebody in their 50s, 60s, 70s that's going to tell you that inshore fishing is better than it's ever been, because you're never going to find anybody that's going to say that. And that should be something that kind of worries you, in a sense, not to scare everybody, but things are definitely not getting better. And the amount of pressure and the technology and people fishing access to things, the fish just don't really stand a chance anymore. And I would just like for the fishery to be able to be sustained for the future. And I would rather be ahead of it than trying to fix it on the back end, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I love the way you talk about it. I really do. And it's I say whether you're focused on conservation of the resource that you're interested in, or whether you're giving back to the community in some other way, what we're really talking about is building resiliency into our community, whereas you can have some folks go out and pound the fishing, but that the stock is resilient and can bounce back, and it would be great 10 years from now or 20 years from now, just like it is today. When you start talking about that, it reminds me of tarpon. You hear all these stories about how tarpon used to be all over the place in Back Bay at one point, and you see all these pictures. And Jordan hooked one and caught a little baby one, and maybe caught a couple of baby ones, but but you just don't hear tarpon ever anymore. I think it has to do with the environmental conditions of the bay compared to where they were many, many years ago. Um, but it's good to hear you focused on the future. I mean, you have to be, and
Yeah.
you have the intellectual capacity to be able to do that. And you got a team of people around you, both charter boat captains and others that are interested in the overall health of the situation. And you got a lot of governmental organizations like within the DMR that are interested, and it makes for the opportunity at least to be successful in the future, doesn't it?
It does. It definitely comes with some negatives. I can promise you that. I
Yeah.
catch a lot of slack from people. I really don't listen to any of that. I'm more. I take a scientific approach to fishing. My dad is a very well respected veterinarian. Well, I guess he's technically retired now, but that's how I approach fishing, was from a scientific standpoint. And when you start looking at it and looking at the numbers and just based on what we've seen, through the years, and I'm sure you can see this too, with especially the inshore fishing, is man, it's just really taking a hit. But I appreciate the kind words, man. It's good to hear something nice about it, because I think I hear more negative than anything. But I'm really big proponent for anything conservation, anything, and for the community, the Gulf Coast. I love the Gulf Coast. I think everybody knows that. I think we have a super underrated fishery and place in general. It's an amazing place to live.
Well, Cal, I'll definitely have you back, and we'll continue these conversations. I've really enjoyed getting to know you better. This has been Captain Cal Johnson. He's a charter boat captain, so look him up, Coastal Water Outfitters. You see his enthusiasm for what he's doing. And I know from listening to Jordan that he pays a lot of attention to where the opportunities are to catch fish, and he does a great job with that. But this would be the first of many conversations, Cal. It's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. We'll be back after this break. See you in just a second.